a little while, um, but I was telling the lady about making a video, and so this is kind of me putting it out there a little bit more, um, and yeah, I go into like why I'm doing it, but I think just for the sake of again the momentum, what I'm gonna do is say what I'm doing. Um, and yeah, I guess, I'm a curious cat. I'm a wanderer, as in I like to wonder. You know what I'm saying? I've wandered too, all over the world and done. I feel really, I feel good. I feel proud of what I've done. I feel grateful that I've been able to live as long as I have. Um, and don't really see an end in sight. But I I feel like, you know, the truth, right? What is this here? The reality of things, you know, it matters, but even more so than the matter, it's meaningful. Um, why is it meaningful? Well, I think the obvious, simple answer is it's love. It's, what I'm saying, it's kind of just the experience in a way of itself, but I think that there's there's a um, there's a maybe a subtle gray area of like of also wondering that is like the mystery. um and I'm not gonna lie to you, I think that the mystery, it's important. I remember when I was driving the bus a little while ago, a year ago, I guess. I My trainer Terry, yeah, he told me to, you got to keep the mystery alive and everything, and I somehow resonated with me, and that's a big thing here. The resonance, the rhythm, the movement, um, the flow of things. Sometimes I think that the words, while communication being key, it can be overwhelming. It can be um, obfuscating. It can be, you get lost in the words. You know what I'm saying? Like you can forget the meaning from the direction. You know. So what I'm saying is that, like, I'll be talking to lady in a little bit. Um, so I guess I'm kind of, you know, warming myself up for that. Might be a little funny to hear, but um, yeah, it's authentic. um, I am the word, right? Like, I mean, at a certain point, you become, right, like your thoughts, I guess you might say. Um, and yeah, I yeah, I'm warming myself up for her because, yeah, it's like that's the thing. It's not just do anything you want, whenever you want, however you want. There is a straight and narrow path. There is things we must let go of. There are things that we must put away. There are things that we must face outside of what we know. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. That's how we find balance. Um, so let's take a moment here to breathe. Yeah, self-awareness, right? Knowing oneself. Um, there are a lot of instincts, in life, self-preservation. While the self, again, is, I think, understandable as largely illusory. Um, in a Buddhist sense, in a sense that, you know, what it is in your mind is not always, it may come to fruition, but it may not be desired to become to fruition. And I was thinking about telling her about how, for me, there have been times when I thought to myself, like, I've accepted death, and I'm saying, I've been able to face it in certain ways, and I wondered, like, am I being, like, is it true? Have I really faced death the way it feels in my mind and when I say it? And then there have been instances in my life where I realized that, I had been ready to die, at least myself. Um, in the sense of, like, the physical form. Because, yeah, I mean, I was looking straight down the barrel of a loaded, you know, um, weapon, and I was, I don't know, I'm not gonna say I was happy to go, but I was, in a way, happy, to go. So that was like confirmation for me, what I'm saying, again, about how the thoughts can be accurate. You can have accurate thoughts. And that's the thing, it's like, even now, it's strange, right? Because, like, what is the meaning? What is the meaning in our lives? And again, you can double down easy on, like, different things, right? Like our relationships, our family, love and God, and these types of things. But I think that, again, there's no word that will really be able to encapsulate it. The discovery, that's a big part of it. I mean, you know, when I try to, express my relationship with God, I often go over, I often, like, I mean, there's that classic example, right? God is omniscient, God is omnipresent, and omnipotent. And it's like, but, how can that be true? I think is one of those classic conundrums, because there's suffering, right? There's evil. There are things that were, like, there's no rhyme or reason. Someone like Eckhart Tolle, or people, what I'm saying, who will say that in the end, evil is still within a limitation. It resonates with me, because that's the peace that passes all understanding, is that no matter what happens, no matter what we suffer, no matter what evil is out there, with the presence, with the stillness, with the courage to accept that, or to face it, it kind of, in a way, doesn't really matter. Because at the end of the day, we know what's more important. you know um and that's where I come back to landing. Yeah. Let me light one more here real quick. Thank you. yeah, that's where I come back to because I love discovering things. I mean, for me, a big part of life, I get, like the meaning in life is the discovery. Um, After all the effort, after all the work, after all the what you put into, finally coming to that discovery is not only satisfactory, but it's a, it kind of it kind of puts you into a place of inspiration again. It puts you into a place of, like a love for life, a love for the experience. And even outside of life, there's a love for the consciousness, the being, like being aware, being, you know, and that's okay. So now that I'm coming to this consciousness topic, right? And that's where we find more mystery, right? Because again, you got people out there, you got Eckhart Tolle's, you got, I'm saying people who are like, you know, um, fully conscious, or however you want to title it. I'm saying they're awake, or they're, you know, um, enlightened, or whatever you want to call it. Um, but you know, I mean, I think, even Jesus himself had said, right, not even he knows the day or the hour. Um, and so no man really can be omniscient in that sense. And I think that the simple, um, the simple answer to that is learning together. Because while you may have a solution for a certain kind of situation, there will be other situations that other people will have the answers for, that that is needed. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that for the moment. Yeah, thank you.